Well, I am having trouble with my internet. I've already been alerted by some of you who are watching. Thanks for the alert. I really enjoyed doing this live, but I'm not so sure that it's going to be able to keep being done live. Let's try it a little bit more. If not, then I'm going to have to shut this down, make a little video, and then I'll post it. I enjoy talking to live people. It said this in verse 45, "Then many of the Jews who had come to Mary and had seen the things Jesus did believed in him. But some of them went away to the Pharisees and told them the things Jesus did. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered a council and said, 'What shall we do? For this man works many signs. If we let him alone like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation.'" It's really interesting, isn't it, that this council that is trying to determine what they need to do with Jesus Christ is so focused on their own survival, their own place, their own nation, that they've completely missed the point about the presence of Jesus and who he is. They're not worried so much about who he is, but rather about what's going to happen to them and to their nation. This runs very deep in the human character, that we want to protect the things that are most important to us. But when Jesus comes into the world, he upsets everything that's important to us, and he says, "You must believe in me. You cannot love your father, your mother, your brothers or sisters. You can't even love your own life more than you love me." And you can see this conflict, and this conflict moves through the heart of every human being, that a person, when confronted with Jesus, wants to keep everything in the order that it is that's benefiting them. And yet Jesus keeps calling them to put him at the first place in their life. Reminds me of that rich young ruler who had much money and a great wealth. And Jesus said, "Go and sell everything that you have, give it to the poor, and then come and follow me." And he went away very sad because he was a very, very rich man. You know, it just seems to me that the battle in discipleship always comes down to something that we may be protecting, something that we just will not let go of. And when it comes to discipleship, when it comes to receiving Christ, we have to deny ourselves, and we have to take up our cross, and we have to follow him. In other words, he has to become the center of our lives. That's why so many people will not come to Jesus, because they understand that they have something that's working for them, something that seems to be absolutely essential, and they just can't let go of that in order to come to Jesus. Jesus said, "If you find your life in this world, you will lose your life." Discipleship with Jesus is not a mix of what I want to keep and what I want to sustain. It is a complete reorientation to Jesus. It's a new birth. It's to be born from above. Sometimes I think that even in our churches, in order to kind of try to keep people and to be respected in society, we just don't let Jesus be the absolute focus of our mind, emotions, and will. The Apostle Paul came to this place when he said, "For I have determined to know nothing among you except Christ and Christ crucified." Now, I know that if you're thinking about your life and you're not looking at Jesus as the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can come to the Father but him, it can sound awfully harsh to ask people to completely embrace Jesus as the truth, as the way, as the life. It is a major not just a major reorganization, it is everything becoming new. And that's why it's called a conversion. That's why it's called a new life. Listen to the statements here amongst the people on this committee. And one of them, Caiaphas, being high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, nor do you consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and not that the whole nation should perish." Now this he did not say on his own authority, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but also that he would gather together in one the children of God who were scattered abroad. It sounds like he's understanding that Jesus has come to save them. But actually what he is saying is they would give Jesus' life up so that the nation of Israel could continue on being the nation, and it would even make the nation prosper in the world. They did not understand that Jesus is the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. They had made it completely a local situation which they wanted to manage. From that day on, they plotted to put him to death. Therefore, Jesus no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there into the country near the wilderness to a city called Ephraim, and there remained with his disciples. So Jesus is no longer able to move freely among the people because the moment of his crucifixion, his arrest and crucifixion is about to happen. And the Passover of the Jews was near, and many went to the country from the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. Then they sought Jesus and spoke among themselves as he stood in the temple. What do you think? That he will come to the feast? Now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a command that if anyone knew where he was, he should report it, that they might seize him. I think the thing that keeps coming back to me reading this over and over, and I think you could consider this as well to think about and meditate on, is this choice of Jesus is worldwide. In other words, it has implications as we receive Jesus that we're looking on a scale that's much broader than our own personal life, our own nation, our own interests. It is about how God loved the world, and he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life. I can tell you that as a missionary living in a country where I am a guest in the country here in Brazil, I understand perfectly that my message is not about fixing anything in Brazil or fixing anything in the other countries where I work, but rather it is presenting Christ to the world and presenting Christ in all of his fullness, because he will disciple people from all nations, all tongues, all peoples. And we need to really be careful in our lives when we forget that Jesus is for everyone across the globe. He wants to save sinners. He saved us, and he wants to save others. He did not come to bring judgment, but to be light, so that men could see their deeds, that they are evil, and then they would come into the light. It's an amazing thing just to watch this unfold. And of course, we're reading it. It took months and even years, this whole process that's going on here. But every time that I read the scriptures, and especially the book of John, I come away absolutely amazed at the power of Jesus' presence, the power of Jesus' words, the power of Jesus' ability to meet human need, his power to reveal to us the heart of his Father. And I am drawn to Jesus. We're going to move on tomorrow to chapter 12, and we'll see more about this power that Jesus has to draw himself to us, and how when we, as in our lives, lift up Jesus and people see Jesus, they're drawn to Jesus. They're not so much drawn to us, but they're drawn to Jesus. And God will use our lives to draw people to Jesus. It's a great thought. Have a great day. If you find yourself in a circumstance where you're afraid of everything that's going on around you, remember, Jesus has a peace that he gives to you that is not of the world. Let him quiet your heart. Be careful that you do not take your eyes off of Jesus. Remember, you have to be looking at this big picture of God's work, because he sent his Son to die for us. Surely he did suffer, he was persecuted, and those who follow him, the scriptures say, will also experience that in their lives. I pray you'll have a great day, and I'm glad the internet worked here for a little while. Maybe that's just an answer to prayer. Maybe sometimes you can only heal the internet if you get enough people praying that it would be healed. Have a great day, and remember to see Jesus, hear Jesus, love Jesus, so you can share Jesus, live Jesus. As the Apostle Paul said, for to me to live is Christ. Have a great day.